Young Feminist Europe really sees the way forward as, making sure that gender and also climate, it's always really important to, I think, mention the two together. They need to be at the heart of solutions and recovery efforts, particularly by the EU and the member states. Otherwise, we're destined to relive the same story that brought us here to the situation we're in today. And so for me, that also means more women in decision-making. In Italy, for example, in the COVID scientific task force, out of 26 members, there were 4 women. This, for me, is a huge problem, because how can you ensure that the voices of people and their lived experience and their talents are being taken into account? You can't at rates like that. So we also need to safeguard health and access to essential services. For example, teleconsultations, I'm not sure how they call it here, but kind of remote teleconferencing consultations with doctors. Also access to emergency birth control without prescriptions. It's also essential to collect sex disaggregated data on the different aspects, so that could be from violence, access to public services, and on everything really. So a lot of the differentiated impacts based along gender lines from the COVID crisis they're stemming from unequal norms, unequal gender norms, and they're also exacerbating the existing vulnerabilities that we have in our society. And we're trying to look at Young Feminist Europe at also how communities and groups that were already facing multiple discrimination or having difficulty in accessing public services, and thinking especially of sexual and reproductive health services. And really tied to our topic tonight is the governments that are taking advantage of the crisis situation to roll back sexual and reproductive health rights. I'm going to cite an example that may be well known, which is the case of Poland, which doesn't necessarily have the best track record so far on sexual and reproductive health rights and tolerance. But in April, the parliament tried to reintroduce a bill further restricting access to abortion in the country. And that was also during a time when people couldn't take to the streets and do large-scale protests like there have been at the other moments where these rights were under threat in the past years. And also, there's services that connect women in Poland who are not able to access the care that they need with care across the border, for example, in the UK or in Germany. And with the lockdown and inability to travel, these women are trapped and stuck and at the whims of a government that has another agenda in mind.